All right. Hey, welcome to this week's fun episode of what we're calling Back Porch Conversations. I'm excited. This week we've got my buddy Charlee Buitrago with us from South Carolina,
Yeah.
but also from Venezuela and Georgia and all over the place. So we're gonna learn more about him in just a second. But I always like to start off each week by giving us the vision behind why we do this week in and week out. I was really kind of my life was altered really by studying through a passage a couple of months ago in Mark chapter 2. I want to share that passage with you as I do every week. Mark chapter 2, verse 2, it says, "Soon the house where Jesus was staying was so packed with visitors that there was no more room, even outside the door. And while he was preaching God's word to them, four men arrived carrying a paralyzed man on a mat. They couldn't bring him to Jesus because of the crowd, so they dug a hole through the roof above his head, and they lowered the man on his mat right down in front of Jesus." This passage was always has just wrecked my world over these last few weeks. Let me tell you why. Because these men were never paralyzed. They never lived the life that this guy did. Instead, they recognized his struggle, they recognized his pain, and they wanted to walk alongside of him. And at points, even had to carry him to get to where he needed to be. This is the important conversations that we need to have now. I have never walked in many of the lifestyles of the people in this country. I haven't had to walk the same journey that Charlee is going to share about tonight. I haven't had to walk in the life of many of the guests that I have on this show, and I think that's important. It's important because we need to have these conversations because we haven't all lived the same. And sometimes we can get locked into our worldview and think, well, that dude was just paralyzed. Oh, well, instead of saying that dude was paralyzed, what can I do to learn about his life? How can I walk alongside of him? How can I carry him when he's hurting? And that's what I want us to be able to do. I want these conversations to be really launch pads for us to see other people's stories and to be able to walk in them and ask questions and recognize that it's okay to have these conversations, to ask these questions, because we all need to learn. Now, obviously, this is pre-recorded. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon here in Georgia, same here in South Carolina. But I also recognize that Charlee has a brand new baby that he doesn't get very much sleep. So I wanted to honor him and his family in that and make sure that we got him while he was awake. And so why do we do this on my back porch? I try to make it a point to make sure I'm always on my back porch. Even just rained a few minutes ago. We waited it out to be able to do this. But why do this? Because I don't think you invite just anybody onto your back porch. In order to get to my back porch, you got to kind of go through my house. You got to see my mess. You got to see all my junk laying on the floor. And I think it's important for us that we recognize that not anybody gets to come back here. But this is where you get to have the most intimate of conversations. It's where you share life with one another. And Charlie's been on my actual back porches before. Charlee and I have spent life together, and we've done ministry together for, we met back in 2004, I think, and we've been living life together ever since. We've held each other's babies. We've celebrated in that, and so we know that this conversation is a conversation worth having. Charlee, you shared so much with me over the years of your own personal journey and the challenges that you face. And so let's hear a little bit from you. I like to be able to stop talking at some point in this conversation and turn it over to the people who really matter. So Charlee, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how God's kind of brought you to where you are.
Well, brother, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I love your porch. This is so cool. So, born and raised in Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela, in South America. So Spanish speaker, moved here when I was 17. Crazy story. When I was 15, a group of missionaries, which by the way, they were all white. They came to Venezuela. So if you can imagine a big group of white people in this ghetto, I lived in the worst that you can imagine in Venezuela. Okay. So like people would not go there. But they came to my house, and there was a guy in the group. The leader of the group was actually really a nice guy. I mean, that's what I thought. And my mom and where my parents went to church, this group of missionaries came and worked with this church. And anyways, long story short, I noticed that they had a special kind of love for people.
Mm.
Especially for me, a punk teenager. I didn't want to be talking to gringos. I was like, man, what's they doing here? Of course, I didn't know any better. But there was one guy. This guy was like really, man, real nice. He actually came to my house. I lived in the 15th floor of this neighborhood. If you can imagine the projects, anywhere you're from, probably you've seen the projects. So I lived in the 15th floor my whole entire life. I thought it was normal. A lot of times we didn't have an elevator, so you wonder why Venezuelans stay in shape. If you know any Venezuelans, you have to go up and down 50 floors and by steps. So, but anyway, so we almost never had an elevator. I remember him going up there to my house, and again, long story short, my mom is being like praying to God, that God would do something with my life. I didn't want to follow Jesus. I didn't really understand the whole thing. And then this guy, by the name of Johnny Condry, comes to my house, and little I know is that him and my mom made a agreement, and that I would come and live with them. Like, are you guys gonna let me know about this?
Yeah.
And so they didn't tell me about this, but at the age of 17, I moved in with this family. They had 7 kids at the time. Well, 6 kids at the time, and then Isaac was born a year later. And so I was the 8th kid, if you can imagine. Didn't look like him. Everybody, was in very different than me. And so here I come, to America for the first time as a teenager at 17. Didn't know the language, didn't know anything. And it's been 22 years. If you can imagine, the story goes on and on. One day he said, "Hey, I don't know about you, but I feel like you're part of my family. You are one of my sons. We love you as a son." I didn't understand that at the beginning. I didn't know Jesus, so I didn't know what that meant. And he said, just like God sent his son for me, I believe that he sent me to Venezuela for you.
Wow.
And for the future of your family. So I'm a father of 3. My biological parents actually live with me. Venezuela has gotten into the worst of the worst in the history of immigration in Latin America. There's 4.7 million Venezuelans that are fleeing Venezuela because of the conditions there. So all that to say, I'm one of the few that came out and I was able to bring my biological parents to America, which is pretty amazing just how that whole thing worked out. And so currently if you can imagine, I'm a worship leader at a local church here in South Carolina where I get to serve. And again, I love seeing how God, man, just uses circumstances and people. And you and I have done ministry together for many years. So just because of that, I get to see the love of Jesus and others through this story. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I know I've seen your house in Venezuela. You showed me pictures.
Yeah.
Just how crazy it is, how different, obviously, we grew up. And even to now have your family. I remember when you were trying to get them from there to here, and then the process of getting them, the citizenship here. And we could probably go on for days about how difficult and challenging a lot of that process was for you guys. But but that's not necessarily the whole point of what we're here. I just know that God has really marked your steps along this journey, and how he's really provided some really incredible opportunities for you here. But that it hasn't all been positive. Of course, you always have some negative things that go along with it. So just for you, tell me maybe your first realization that racism was real, that maybe you didn't fit the norm that everybody else was expecting. And what was it for you that really set that off?
If you can imagine, growing up in Venezuela, we never had any kind of division as far as race. Now, we can be divided by any other reasons and ways, but there was never, I'm telling you, I know this for a fact. We never experienced black and white. That was never a thought. And there could be maybe because of soccer, you can see a lot of, fights.
Yeah.
But again, the reality was I never experienced anything that was like racism until actually I moved to America. I mean,
Wow.
I got stories after stories, but just to be clear, because I don't think it's about picking a side or you're wrong and I'm right. Now, it has nothing to do with that, because racism is a condition of the heart
Amen.
that only Jesus can actually change, and so and you won't see it until it's before your eyes.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is this: here, I come to America. Of course, I look, and if you think about it, I look like I'm not from around here. I don't talk like I'm around here. So all that came to be more real in the moment that I started being around different areas that I felt like a little bit out of place. And experiences like, like understanding that the way I'm being treated at a certain circus moment is based on how I look and how I talk, and it's pretty amazing to experience that. I never experienced it in my whole entire life until I came here. So one of the things that I noticed is the fact that um, we are in the South. This is not New York. This is in Miami. As a matter of fact, if I take you to Miami with me, you'd be minority. So
It's
this
true.
is in that setting. So it's understandable that, like this person is different than me. But then I have experienced moments where, and hey, I pray. I have friends who are in the law enforcement, and I love the fact I'm teaching my kid, hey, the police are here to help us.
Yeah.
In the past, I had bad, experiences, but that doesn't mean that all cops are coming after me.
Right. Right.
At the same time, there's been profiling, and listen, even me, I had to search my heart,
Mm.
because see, the easiest thing to do now is to say, well, you know what? Every white person is a racist.
Mm.
That's not true either.
Right.
So again, it's a condition of the heart. You gotta be careful, and so I have to be careful. So with all that, man, I have stories after stories, but I have one story I remember. So I lead worship, and I do lives. I'm on social media, and I'll share my social media later with you guys, so you can be in contact with me. I love to communicate with people. But anyways, I was doing a live, and I've never forget this. I'm doing this live. This person pops up. I don't know who this person is, and it starts saying, doing the chat. It's like, "Hey man, go home."
Mm.
I'm like, how do I use this opportunity, to show Jesus? It's hard. Hey, go home. Go back to where you came from. We don't want you here. So the moment you hear these words, you start thinking, why is it so hard for me to understand that this is a reality?
Yeah.
And this is what God has started doing in my life, man. Um, the truth is, if you're a follower of Jesus, the truth is, you and I, it doesn't matter how you look, if you follow Jesus, this earth ain't your home.
Yeah.
We not even from this world. Now, this is for Christians. If you follow Jesus, this is the reality. You should not look at someone else differently by the way they look, they talk, or any means,
Good.
because we are so created in God's image that we are looking forward to go to our home, who is in heaven, the kingdom of God. Now, here's the difference. What do we do here? It's what I've been doing. It's really trying to show the love of Jesus. That's not an easy thing to do.
No.
Um, and when you're being told, "Hey, go home," when you're being told, "Hey, uh, you know, you're not wanted here,"
Mm.
it's almost like, "Oh God, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
Do I behave like they behave, or do I become Jesus to this world?" And
Mm.
it's the toughest thing for me. If I act in my flesh, it'll be a different story.
You brought up something really interesting. That in Venezuela you never experienced. And I was meeting with my small group on Tuesday night, and I'm always flabbergasted at the differences in culture.
Mhm.
So we have a Hispanic, and we have an African American. We have obviously myself, and we have all these different cultures in our small group.
Yeah.
And I said, what's interesting to me is that in Hispanic culture and Black culture, and well, let me just say, in pretty much probably every other Asian culture, and every other culture except for white culture, white culture tends to be very individualized.
Yeah.
Like what's me is me, what's you is you. Like don't even. But it's different, right? In any other culture
Oh,
besides really white culture,
that's
it's
crazy.
familial. Like
Yes.
you hurt. If I hurt you, I'm also hurting your culture. Like
Yeah.
their culture feels that pain. And
Yeah.
I think that's important to recognize. Like when people are saying, "Why is everybody getting upset?" It's just one guy, or it's just one thing, or they because in white culture it's an isolated incident,
Yeah.
but in every other culture, like it's an attack on culture, and we have to recognize that we are. I think what you said is so important, that we have to become a family
Right.
culture where we recognize like we are brothers and sisters created as image bearers of God. And
Correct.
if we are going to live as such,
Yeah.
right, then any attack on one another is an attack on the image of God. And we have to fight for justice for that reason and that reason alone, because we're together, man. Like
Listen,
you and I, we're brothers and sisters in Christ, man.
I'll tell you this, and I just remember the story. I had a friend that I went to school with, and she invited me home with her, and I'll never forget this. She said, "Hey, my grandfather would not like for you to be in the house."
Wow.
And your mind, you're thinking, "What?" But in my mind, I'm thinking, "Wait a minute. You telling me that I'm not able to stay here?" Like it was a Thanksgiving as an international student. You get invited to houses,
Yeah.
and she tells me this. Now I said, what do I do? I never been confronted with this.
Right.
And he won't be fine with you being here because you are a Hispanic. And if he knows that I'm hanging out with you, I may be getting in trouble. That's when I knew there was something deeper in people's heart.
Yeah.
And again, this is not a black, white, Hispanic thing. I think is a condition of the heart. Now,
Yes.
here's the other thing, though, Chris, and I'm gonna go ahead and speak some truth if you allow me.
Yeah. Do it.
It's so easier for a majority group to just be content with what they have because they don't know any better. Like you just said, like our culture, like it's me and I keep myself, and you kind of distance yourself because the truth is that that's been the culture you being a part of. You don't know any better.
Right.
Now, not until the moment that you being majority start actually being part of the minorities, you realize soon enough, you will find out that you've been missing out.
Yeah.
Now, it's easier for us minorities to be a part of the majorities and adapt to it. Hey, I've been trying to do it for 22 years.
Yeah.
Try to speak English like you do, and I try to like adapt to this culture, and there's nothing wrong with that until you realize, wait a minute, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with adapting to a culture. The only thing is this: it's easier for minorities to jump into the majorities and adapt to that culture than for majorities leave their comfort zone to adapt to the minorities.
Yeah.
It's easier for us Hispanics to join in any kind of white church. Heck, I mean, you can bring your Latino worship leader, bring your black worship leader. It's easier.
Yeah.
But the moment that you start seeing the majorities being a part of the minorities, then you start seeing something happening in the culture.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen it. I have many times in the past. I have to fight to convince the people in front of me that what I'm saying is probably a good decision about certain things.
Mm.
You see, now in your mind, you're thinking, nah, man, I've seen you do that. Yeah, I still have to almost work twice as hard to really make my point. And when you see the majorities, like and the white culture, I mean, you will be able to speak, people will listen. I give you this example. When I met you, I don't think I was a U.S. citizen. Remember that?
No. Yeah. You weren't. Yeah.
I
We
was
were
not a U.S. citizen. So
working together.
I
Yeah.
didn't have certain privileges. I didn't have certain rights.
Yeah.
I was an immigrant. Now I'm still an immigrant. But the day that I became a U.S. citizen, something started hitting me, and I said, wow, a lot of things were supposed to change, but nothing really has changed.
No.
The
Yeah.
only thing that changed was that now I have the right to vote in this country.
Yeah.
And then I'm 40 years old, never voted in my entire life.
Yeah.
So you start thinking, oh, wait a minute, I get something, a privilege by being considered from this country by adoption. Now, here's the thing, though. When I was not a citizen, I had to behave myself, and I struggle with this. I have to behave myself as if I'm staying in somebody else's house and
Mm.
not open the refrigerator because, hey, that ain't your house.
Wow.
Imagine taking that to school, college, work, going to the store thinking the people think that you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
and then you pull, this actually happened when you get pulled aside by somebody in the store. I'm not going to say the name of the store uh, for the sake of integrity, but taking it aside and say, "Hey, we saw you take this from aisle 20. It's on camera." You go like, "Excuse me? You saw me do this? You can search me." Then you start thinking, "Oh, wait a minute, something ain't right." Just because I told the guy, just because I don't look like I'm from around here, this is 2 blocks from my house. And not only that, 2 blocks from the church I work at.
Mm.
You see? So something is not right. And you start thinking, oh man. And if you only knew I'm a US citizen as anybody or whatever, that didn't change. You
No.
know? So again, it's the action of feeling that you don't feel part of something.
Yeah.
And I really believe this. I get the honor and the privilege to start, man, yearning for home. And listen, every time I go to Venezuela or South America, I travel the world. Every time I'm there, I start thinking, why don't I feel like I'm from around here either?
Yeah.
Again, I want to land on that because the truth is, if this is the closest thing to home you have, then I'm bad for you. This isn't good enough. I mean, look at our nation. When I say our nation, look at the United States of America, what we are now, bro.
Yeah.
If you want to fix this, I said as Christians, let's start looking forward to, man, our home in heaven is. You know what, the true home that our God is preparing for us.
That's so good. I love the comment you made that that you felt like you were in somebody else's home. And what's interesting is in order for you to feel at home in somebody else's home, like you had to be invited into that. And when we're talking about cultures, right? Like we had to kind of do a two-step process here. One, like let's invite ourselves into other cultures and learn. Like let's not just say let's not just say like I eat Mexican food, so I understand Mexican culture.
Now,
No,
and let me tell you this, Chris, and it's okay if you're wrong. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay because I'm gonna go ahead and tell everybody you've been wrong before.
I have.
And you know what? It's okay. You can say a word in Spanish and you can say it wrong, and it's okay. This is the thing. The problem is when you're not using your voice for others, and you're not trying to do anything. And you have made me feel welcome because you have tried.
Yeah.
And sometimes we laugh at each other, and that's okay. It's okay. Like it's okay to be, to be that uncomfortable with the culture is not yours. Now, here's the thing. People say, hey, I'm not a racist. Well, that's great. That's not enough.
Yeah.
That's not enough. For you to say that you're not a racist, that's not enough. Now, until the moment that you're okay with your daughter marrying one of my sons.
Mm.
Now, you're a racist now. Or when you are okay that, hey, my son is hanging out with a black, beautiful Christian lady.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's when you start digging deep and going like, oh, they're not the problem. I'm the problem.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Anyways.
You know what though, Charlie, like for you even, like we've done a lot together. I invite you to I was in student ministry for 15 years. You were with me alongside every single one of them. Yeah. And every conference I do, every retreat I do, if you were available, you were there. But what I loved about what you did whenever you'd come is that you would not just say, I'm going to walk into this white culture, because it's easy for us it's easy for you. And you just said it earlier. It's easy for you to flip into, all right, well, I'm at a white church. I'm going to act like what but you always, I think this is so pivotal. You always invited us into your culture.
Yes.
Because if people don't know anything about you, Charlie, you are a world famous singer. You're all over the place, brother. You are such a gifted musician. And oftentimes, you will take, particularly for some other churches, and you'll take their English songs and make them Spanish.
Yes.
And then they'll release those songs, and those songs have done incredible things. God's really used you in a mighty way. And I don't say that to brag on you or and you know that, but I say that to say this, that you have utilized that gift to invite our community into that conversation. So you've taught my students Spanish songs. You've taught them, hey, let me teach you this course. Let me just start off with a couple words. Let me get you, because it's important for us to be invited into that.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that. And I think we need more people like that. We need more people white, black, Hispanic, Asian, like Native American. We need more people who are willing to do exactly what you're doing, which is inviting people into the culture, inviting people into the conversation so that we can all be who we've been created to be. We don't have to pretend. We can be accepting of that. So let me ask one last question. Like, what are some experiences that you've had, positive and negative, since being here, since being a part of churches and the church world? You've traveled all over the place, in all different types of countries. What would you say? Like, I just feel like we need to kind of hear a little bit of your experience, and then how can we speak into that in such a way that we can begin to see some change happen within our own, because I think you're right, man. It's a hard issue. So what are some ways that you can help us see, like, hey, this is Charlie, this is what he's experienced, this is what his family's experienced, and out of that, like, how can we begin to make some changes going forward?
Yeah,
I don't know what you could share there, but
man, that's a great question, man, because if you ask me, how can we make a difference, for the longest time I really thought this. I work at New Spring Church in South Carolina. I'm one of the many worship leaders who are talented, man. Like, these people are incredible. These people let me be part of their family.
Yeah.
Now, was mind blowing to me. The moment I knew that I was hired and I was brought here not because I was Hispanic, but because I had a calling in my life for ministry, to be part of something bigger than myself. That's when I said, "Oh, they see beyond. They see beyond my heritage. They see beyond my background. They see beyond even my gifting. They are seeing what God made me to do, what I was created to do."
Yeah.
Many people are trying to be intentional. Listen to this. I think this is from the Lord, man. Many people are trying to be intentional and focusing in so much in intentionality that they're forgetting to be relational.
Wow, it's good. Yeah.
You can be intentional all you want, but if you don't have a relationship with someone that doesn't look like you, I'll start asking questions.
Yeah.
It's easy. Hey, you didn't have to think about it twice to call me to do this interview.
No.
We have a relationship.
Yeah.
Now, if you only call me to do this interview, I will know something ain't right.
Yeah.
Now, so what can we do? You can be relational all you want. Let's be intentional all you want. But you got to put it in a balance and say, I can't just be intentional and forget about being relational. I have friends who are black. I have friends who happen to be white. I have friends who happen to be Hispanic. And I try myself to never use the language that we hear all the time. I'm going to call my black friend.
Yeah.
No. Now, hey, I don't think that that's why he's friend. He just happens to be black.
Yeah.
I don't call you think I'm going to call my white friend. It just sounds ridiculous. So
Yeah.
I got to say, yes, let's be intentional. Let's and if you listen, if you're watching right now, let me encourage you, be intentional.
Yeah.
Hey, carry a smile, man. Our black brothers and sisters are hurting. And if you're not hurting with them, then you need to seek the Lord and say, Lord, break my heart for what breaks first. Because I'm telling you, man, I don't think I've ever been this broken over the injustice that we see left and right. Now, and don't get me started about Hispanics. If you see the reality in the Hispanic community, and then I can see our our brothers and sisters from whatever other country, from England, from China, saying, hey, when y'all done fighting about this black and white thing, our problem, So it's the reality we're living in. And yes, you can be intentional, but let's start being relational, man. Be relational. Put yourself in circumstances that are not comfortable for you. Somebody on staff here at New Spring came to me one day. Hey, Charlie, what do you go to buy, like food? I said, what you doing Friday? He said, going with you. So he came with me. We went to La Tienda La Única in Berea, South Carolina. We
Yes, so good.
down the road, you know where I'm talking about.
I do know. Yeah.
We shop together, and he is like, bro, how did I ever do this? Be intentional, but be relational. Ask the question. See, the thing is, it's easier to ask questions when you have a relationship. They'll answer, and I'll let you know if you ask like a bad question.
Man, and I appreciate that about you because, in our 15 years of knowing one another, we've had a lot of good conversations, hard conversations. I was there. You called me when you got your citizenship. I remember celebrating with you. Like, there are just moments where, I think you said it so right, man. People miss out on an opportunity when we fail to have the relationships.
It's kingdom, man. It's kingdom minded.
It's so good.
Kingdom minded. You start realizing how beautiful the kingdom of God is.
Yeah.
The moment you start hanging out with people that don't look like you.
Yeah. And that's so rich. Like, if nothing else, take that out today and run with it, because I think it's true. I think it's so true that we can be as intentional as we want to be, but if we're not building relationships, if we're not seeing our lives change because of the friends that we have around us, if we're not hurting with it, I think the line you said, break my heart for what breaks, I think that's one of the most powerful Hillsong songs that ever came out, right? From that song, Hosanna. Break my heart for what breaks yours. I wish I knew the rest of it. You probably do, but that line is, every time somebody says that, I always go back to that song because I just think it's so powerful. It's so forward thinking, but biblical.
Yes.
Like, if our heart doesn't break for the things of God, then do we have the heart of God inside of us? That's a question we have to answer.
That's good.
We have to wrestle with.
Yeah, man.
Man, Charlie, thank you. I know you're so busy, man. You've got so much going on. You took time to be with us today, and I appreciate that. Tell me some resources that we. I know you had a great book that we can share. I always tell people, if you start nowhere, start with Be the Bridge. It's a great opportunity to go and to listen and to learn. But what were some other resources maybe that you could share?
Absolutely,
be helpful.
Let me bring this up because Miles McPherson, amazing. He actually spoke here at our church not long ago, and he has a book called The Third Option.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
I haven't yet, but I'm going to now that you said it.
It's so good. It's helping me. Again, I'm not black. I'm not white. I'm in the middle, so I'm Hispanic. I'm like, okay, and so I'm learning so much through this. And also that I was looking at. I don't even remember my friend Sanchez Fair. He's in Charlotte.
Yeah.
He does a lot of good, a lot of content. There's a. I'm looking at here. Hold on. There's a link by. I'm looking it up because this is really good, and it's helping me. It's helping in so many ways. How to understand and address white privilege. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
And people can agree or disagree with this, but I can tell you this: as a minority, there is a privilege that you have that I may not have. Yeah. The people that signed the paper, the documents for me to be able to stay in this country, they were all white. There was a sense of power in that. Some people agree, some people don't. But the Village Church resources, they have this on YouTube, is how to understand and address white privilege. Wow. This is a good resource. And so, I mean, you can look it up. But also, I also want to tell you this. If this is cool with you, anyone who is listening right now, you can find me on social media. I always communicate with anybody that hits me up. I'll always try to communicate. So I'm on Instagram. If you want to look me up, it's Charlee, Lee, in the end, Charlee, like Bruce Lee, but Charlee. My mom messed up on the spelling. And my last name is Buoy, like a buoy on the ocean, Buitrago, Buitrago. Instagram, you can find me at Charlee Buitrago. And then the same thing on Facebook, whatever. Like we can chat. So
yeah, there's the spelling right there for you. You can see.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah,
amazing.
So that way you guys can follow him. Listen, Charlie's Top Shelf. Sometimes I try to log on to Instagram Lives and you're speaking Spanish, and I can't hang with you, but I try because I want to hear what you got to say.
That's part of the intentionality relationship you can build. I'm telling you. And it's cool because I felt convicted one time. I was like, man, I got all these people wanting to speak English, and then I got all these people speaking Spanish. Well, I am bilingual.
Yeah.
And so, and you can jump into this and try. I mean, I'm telling you, believe it or not, Spanish language is growing in our nation. We actually just got done doing a record for Spanish kids here at our church, and it's exciting. So, but I love you, man.
Love you, brother. Thank you. And I always want to end by reminding people that these conversations, it's not a short-term overnight change. This takes time. It takes energy. It takes effort. We want to invite you guys, whoever is listening, into that because it's so important and so pivotal to put your time and energy and effort into learning about other people and other cultures and being a part of the change that we're going to see in this country because of the conversations that we're having. Awesome. And I always remind people that it's about equality, not division. So I love this shirt so much that a friend of mine made. And I want us to be able to fight to see each other as the same because we are the same in the eyes of God and we'll always be the same. And so, man, I'm thankful for you, Charlie, for your friendship, for your family. I love you guys.
Love you, brother. Hey, smile. Let's take a picture real quick. Say cheese.
Cheese.
Awesome.
You rock, man. All right, brother. We love you guys. And thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure if you want to share this, all sorts of platforms. I'll throw it up here in just a second. We'll see you guys next week.
Love you, man.